My client had 4 bad bosses in a row. Different companies, some different industries, different personalities, all bad. And my client was adamant it was just bad luck. From the outside, it was obvious there was a common denominator there. But from the inside, he wouldn't see it. And the worst part is, he never did. Even after a year of working together, he would not accept any responsibility for this. Here's the question I want you to sit with. What if the biggest challenge in your career is something that's invisible to you, just like this pattern was invisible to my client? We all face challenges in our career and in life more broadly. Why am I not getting promoted? Why don't I have the resources I need to do my job well? Why is my boss ignoring me? Or at the other extreme, micromanaging me? There are 4 ways you can answer that question of why. I'm going to break them down in this video, but only one of them actually helps you move forward. But the kicker is, the way we answer that question, for most people, is invisible to them. They just assume that's the way the world works. It's not. You get a choice on how you answer this question of why, and by making a good choice, you can move forward and overcome any challenge that's in front of you. I'm Rusty Gaylord, executive coach and former director of finance at Apple. I help ambitious, high-achieving people break through the ceiling that hard work alone can't crack. You'll find 2 to 3 new videos here every month, so if they help you be more successful in your career and as a leader, click subscribe. The first way that people deal with this question of why is this happening to me is to believe that it's random. And surprisingly, a lot of people operate this way, although they wouldn't necessarily admit it. And it just looks like this situation of, oh, this random thing just popped up, so I got to deal with it and clear it off my desk. And once I do that, then I'll move forward. But then another random thing pops up and you got to deal with that. And it's just this cycle over and over and over again. I have a client, we'll call her Susan, who was doing really well at work. In fact, she had just been promoted and she was super excited about her new role. She goes into her boss, has the first conversation with her boss, and her boss asks her to do this piece of work that felt like it was a step backwards. It was like what she had been doing before the promotion. Susan was really disappointed about this and was having a hard time seeing it in any kind of way other than, oh man, I just got to do this thing, clear it off my desk, do a good job at it, and then hope that the next opportunity is better. The problem with this approach of thinking that things are random is it's hard to see patterns and you feel stuck a lot doing things that you don't necessarily want to do, and it's hard to craft a path forward. When you see someone else in the midst of this pattern, it is so obvious, but when you're in it yourself, it can be hard to see because you're just trying to clear the things off your desk so you can get to the next opportunity and hope that it's a good one. Now, some people don't just believe that life is random. In fact, they believe that the scales are tilted a little bit against them. The second way that many people answer this question of why is this happening is that I'm unlucky. This is exactly the way my client with the 4 bad bosses was thinking. It's just bad luck. I'm unlucky. The problem is when you're unlucky, you're externalizing the cause of all your problems, which means you're also externalizing the solution. So this client would go from company to company and boss to boss and keep having the same issue. It's so obvious when you see this happening from the outside, but my client kept doing it and saying, I'm just having bad luck. Look, I get it that things happen in life, but if your assumption is always that it's always luck and it's always bad luck, at some point you need to start recognizing the pattern. Once again, so obvious to see in other people, but when it's you, it can be hard to see because there's always an explanation. You got to start to see the bigger pattern in your life, and if it's the same explanation over and over again, you just have to ask, is this serving you? Is it helping you advance? Is it helping you accomplish your goals? I'm not here to tell you that one of these 4 is right or wrong, but I will tell you that one of these 4 ways of answering the question of why is this happening to me is going to be more productive and effective in helping you go where you want to go than the other 3. The way to get out of this mindset of bad luck is to take some accountability, but be careful how you do that. The third way to answer this question of why is this happening is I deserve this. It might sound like I should have seen this coming. I should have known better. This is what I get. If I'm honest, this was my way of answering this question of why for a long time. It may sound like accountability, but it's actually just punishing yourself. And the result is it's demoralizing and disempowering and does not help you move forward. I led a big global project while I was at Apple, and this went on for months and touched dozens of people across the company. And a week before we were scheduled to go live, my boss pulled the plug, canceled the whole thing. I was devastated. Of course, I took this personally. This was my project that I was leading. And my first response was, this is bad luck. But my second response was, I deserve this. I messed up. I should have known better. There's so many things I should have done differently. And rather than see that in a constructive way, I saw it in a critical way. And it was demoralizing. And as a result, whenever this subject came up, I changed the subject. I didn't want to talk about it. I didn't want to look at it. I didn't want to see why, in fact, did this really happen. It wasn't true accountability for the issue. It was more self-criticism for what happened. It took me years before I finally got to the point where I could learn a lesson from this rather than just feel bad about it. So if you got a situation like this in your life, or this is your way of answering the question of why, in some way saying, I deserve this, it is an invitation. It is an invitation for you to learn and grow and shift into this fourth way of answering the question, why is this happening to me? And I hope you do not wait years to take that opportunity the way I did. The fourth way of answering the question of why is this happening is, I am creating this. Some people might say that sounds like a woo-woo statement, but consider that Daniel Kahneman won the Nobel Prize for explaining the unconscious bias that humans have in decision making. He described System 1 and System 2 as two different ways of thinking. System 1 is your subconscious, automatic, fast way of making decisions. Think about when you're driving a car or riding a bike. There are thousands of things you have to process mentally, but your brain's just doing it automatically. System 2 is your conscious, deliberate, rational thinking, but it's very slow. You can't think through things very quickly that way. I realized this when I was teaching my son to drive a car because he was doing System 2 thinking, that rational, slow, deliberate decision making while driving. And as a passenger, it's terrifying. You just can't keep up with the pace of things happening. So your brain automatically hardwires these things to happen automatically. And that is System 1. Daniel Kahneman explained how this drives so much of our decision making. But think back to my client who had the 4 bad bosses. He did not consciously choose this, but there was something in the way he showed up, what he was signaling, what he tolerated, who he gravitated towards. It's these things that subconsciously show up that create your experience. I would argue out of the 4 ways of answering, why is this happening to me? This is the only one that is empowering. I get that it can be a little intimidating to take responsibility for the fact that you are creating your experience. And when something bad is happening, it's way easier to blame someone else than it is to look at yourself. Do you remember Susan, my client, who just got promoted and was asked to do a piece of work from her old job? Well, I helped her reframe that as an opportunity to create this new piece of work in a way that served her in her new job. Rather than saying this is just some random thing or bad luck that showed up on my desk and I've got to clear it off, we said, how do you see this as an opportunity to achieve what you want to achieve in your new role, to create the kind of leadership experience that she was looking for out of this piece of work? And she shaped it that way to make it productive and help her move forward. This requires changing your perspective dramatically and not just seeing yourself as the victim of the stuff that's coming at you, but as a leader and someone who's responsible for creating something positive. I know you have that in you. You have the ability to see your situation differently and find the path forward that is actually going to help you. Humans have done this over and over and over again in the history of the world, and you can do it too. You may agree with everything I've said so far, but still feel stuck. Because understanding this intellectually does not help you see the blind spot that everybody else can see. You can't read the label from inside the bottle. You've got to change your perspective. But most people, when faced with a problem, don't change their perspective. They zoom in on the problem. It's like they're hunched over a piece of paper, analyzing and scrutinizing and thinking and trying to get to an answer. But the answer doesn't come from getting closer to the problem. The answer comes from getting closer to your intuition. You've got to step back. You have to change your perspective. Tap into your inner wisdom. That's probably more like going for a walk, spending time in nature, taking a hot bath, meditating, journaling, whatever approach it is that works for you. You need to zoom out, change your perspective, and find that part of you that knows that you can move forward. I believe in the human capacity for change, and absolutely you have that too. If this idea of changing your perspective to make better decisions resonates with you, watch this next video. I break down the System 1 and System 2 thinking even further and give you 5 steps you can take to help you make better decisions by tapping into your intuition.